Good morning. I'm State Representative Darrell Metcalf, and welcome to your state capitol. We're here today for our 11th annual Second Amendment rally, the rally to support, defend the right to keep and bear arms. Second Amendment, second to none. Are you with me? Before we get started, or actually to start us off, I'm going to have Allie Hynoski, and she's joined us the last couple of years. She's the daughter of Stephen and Monica Hynoski, and they're constituents of Representative Stan Saylor, and Allie's going to sing for us the national anthem. Do it okay there?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rugged red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Allie. Just what a beautiful voice you've been gifted with, and thank you for sharing with us today that gift that God's given you and singing our national anthem. Thank you. Another hand for Allie. You know, the Second Amendment, I think it's important that we let our government know that the Second Amendment wasn't provided for just duck hunting. But the Second Amendment is our insurance policy against tyranny. I'd like to introduce Representative Jeff Pyle.
All right. Good morning. I want to thank Darrell for having me up here. This is my 12th year. I've spoken in front of you 3 times. I guess he only likes to roll me out in presidential years because he appreciates my political acumen. I am very, very proud to tell anybody that will listen. I come from the 60th District, which is Armstrong, Butler, and Indiana counties. In the most recent 2010 census, Armstrong County was found to have, and I get really warm and gushy, so if I start crying, just keep it to yourself. We are the 4th most heavily armed county in the United States per capita. And I'll tell you what, Number 3, we checked into it, is a county on the side of a mountain in Idaho that's like 30 people and they all own 60 guns. So we think we're ahead of them too. Darrell nailed it. Darrell hit it as hard as you could. Guns are what keep a free people free. Yes. Now, why would he ask me to come up here this year and speak? It's about decisions. And this November, you're going to go make a decision. And you're going to walk into it, may be a touch screen like it sheets. It may be the old school lever machine. It could be those fill in the bubble sheets. And you're going to throw your bean into the pot over who you think is going to best lead this nation, this Commonwealth, and your municipalities. I am not supposed to get political and tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to tell you tools you can use to select who you vote for. On one hand, we have a guy that went to the New York Military Academy, studied arms training, all of that. And on the other, you got a lady trying to outleft her opponent, telling everybody they're going to take every gun on earth. Not being political with you, but I think you know how this goes. Now, on our level, the state level, it's not very different than the national level. We have a head chief executive who happens to feel a lot of the same stuff the current president of the United States says. It's normally a safe bet when you see something coming out of his mouth. It's not going to be friendly to our cause. Keep this in mind when you walk into that booth and press that button. Now, I'm going to leave with one last note, and I'm not trying to get your favor or anything, but my dad passed away a couple of months ago. My dad was a U.S. Navy sailor during the 50s during what we thought was going to be an invasion of Crete. Oh, yeah. Yeah. My dad was a man who worked all his life for all he had. He appreciated our Second Amendment rights. And on the day he passed, he didn't hand me, the family handed me, a flintlock dated to 1763 that has belonged to our family and allegedly was used at the Battle of Germantown. To this day, that is the only firearms owned by my family that has ever fired a shot in anger. None of my firearms walk themselves down the street and open up randomly. Let's be honest about it. It takes a good man with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. I'm out of here. My name's Jeff Pyle. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. As you see, there's many members of the legislature behind me, senators that are here today. Senator Bartolotta, you'll be hearing from. Senator Brewster is supposed to be with us today. Senator Hutchinson, Senator Vogel is with us here today. So we also have Representative Baker, Bloom, Boback, Brown, Causer, Corbin, Representative Dom Costa. Our Republican whip, Brian Cutler, is over the side. Our Majority Leader, Dave Reed, is over the side here. Thank you for coming. We also have Russ Diamond, George Dunbar, Joe Emmerich, Frank Ferry, Mindy Fee, Matt Gobler, Jarrett Gibbons, Mark Gillen, Maury Gingrich, Representatives Keith Greiner, Seth Grove, Marcia Hahn, Ted Harhide, Julie Harhart, Doyle Heffley, Sue Helm, Dave Hickernell, Lee James, Barry Joswiak, Aaron Koffer, Rob Kaufman, Mark Keller you'll be hearing from. Representative Kate Klunk was planning to be here today. Representative Jerry Knowles, John Lawrence, one of our Republican leaders, caucus chair, Representative Sandy Majors, State Representative Dave Maloney, Representative Jim Marshall from Beaver County, who wanted to make sure that I recognize Beaver County for sending down 3 buses. So thank you, Beaver County. Representatives Kurt Mauser, John McGinnis, Brett Miller, Brandon Newman gave me his card when he walked by. He's here. Representative Eric Nelson, one of our Republican leaders. Representative Donna Oberlander you'll be hearing from. Representative Jason Ordite, Joseph Percharka, Representative Christine Hill, Representative Tina Pickett, Jeff Pyle, you heard from Jack Rader, Representative Kathy Rapp, you'll be hearing from Representative Harry Reedshaw, Representative Mike Regan, Representative Brad Roy, Representative Rick Saccone, you should be hearing from Representative Chris Sonato, Representative Stan Saylor, Representative Paul Chamel, and Representative Pam Snyder, Representative Linda Culver, Representative Craig Statz, Representative Tallman, Tobash, Topper, and the speaker is supposed to be here today. I don't know if he made it yet. Is Representative Turzai here yet? Representative Judy Ward, Representative Ryan Warner, and Representative Park Wentley. So we have other members that might be here that might not have been read yet, but if you're here, let me know. And our next speaker is going to be one of them ones that I mentioned, Representative Kathy Rapp.
Thank you, Representative Metcalf, and thanks to all the people of Pennsylvania who are here today celebrating our Second Amendment right. We appreciate everybody who came here today for this rally in Harrisburg. As Representative Metcalf said, I'm State Representative Kathy Rapp. I represent the people of the 65th Legislative District in Warren, Crawford, and Forest counties. It's been said many times that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Legendary World War II General Douglas MacArthur took this concept still one step further when he said, "No man is entitled to the blessings of freedom unless he is vigilant in its preservation." Today, let me begin by commending every law-abiding gun owner for your vigilance in coming to Harrisburg once again to actively defend your constitutional liberty to keep and bear arms. Liberal gun control activists and gun-grabbing elected officials are relentless in their never-ending efforts to chip away the Second Amendment to the point where it is absolutely worthless in guaranteeing our freedoms. Public safety is a concern that we must all hold first and foremost to maintain our civilized society. However, gun control advocates have the wrong ideas about how to obtain it. If you don't believe it, just look at the rise of violent crime in countries where gun bans have already taken effect. In light of the Obama administration's ongoing attacks via executive order on our Second Amendment liberties, it is no surprise that the number of citizens purchasing firearms and obtaining concealed carry permits is at an all-time high. Clearly, the safety and welfare of our citizenry cannot be guaranteed if we continue to allow our social and legal status as law-abiding gun owners or outdoor sports enthusiasts to be reduced to silent second-class citizens. George Orwell once wrote that rifle on the wall of the laborer's cottage or working-class flat is the symbol of democracy. It is our job to see that it stays there. I can think of no truer words to exemplify the foundation of our constitutional republic. Our founding fathers and veterans across generations have risked their lives and shed their blood to secure these freedoms. We must fight harder than ever before to keep them intact. Thank you, Representative Metcalf, and all of you for being here today.
Good job. Thank you, Representative Rapp. We've also been joined this morning by Representative Bob Godshall and Representative Harry Lewis and Representative Rich Irvin, I see standing over there to the side also. Our next speaker is going to be an attorney that's been fighting the fight for Second Amendment in the courtroom, and that's Mr. Joshua Prince, Chief Counsel of the Firearms Industry Consulting Group. Joshua?
Thank you, Representative Metcalf. It is a distinct honor and privilege to be here today with all of you. I know our time is limited. We have a lot of work to do still yet today. So I want to quickly give you an update on two major appellate issues that are in the courts here in the Commonwealth. The first was approximately 2 weeks ago, I was before the Commonwealth Court on an issue regarding preemption. For those of you who are not aware, our General Assembly enacted a law since 1974 that preempts any municipality, county, or township from regulating in any manner possession, transport, and other things of firearms and ammunition. Lower Merion Township has an ordinance that they do not dispute prevents an individual from even being able to utilize a firearm in an occasion of rape, serious bodily harm, or death in any of their city parks. We were before the Commonwealth Court on this matter, and a senior judge that was on the panel, although it was not directly related to the issue before the court, made a statement that licenses to carry should only be issued for good cause. I responded, yes, that's correct. Self-defense is a proper basis for issuance of a license to carry.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, this senior judge of the Commonwealth Court did not agree. He responded, no, there must be an actual underlying basis, meaning there must be a protection from abuse order. There must be an actual threat. The individual must be able to show some actual need to defend him or herself. I responded, Your Honor, respectfully, that is not the case. We are a shall issue state, and the General Assembly has acknowledged that self-defense in itself is a proper basis. He didn't agree, but I had to leave the issue at that point because the issue before the court was not the issuances of licenses to carry. But thankfully, the other two judges that were on the panel were looking at him as if he had two heads, which caused a great deal of warmth in my heart. The second issue that I want to tell you about that was a decision just on Friday by the Commonwealth Court again affects licenses to carry. For those of you who are not aware, all license to carry firearms applicant information is confidential and not subject to disclosure. There are issuing authorities that send out information relating to licenses to carry on unenveloped postcards, disclosing approvals, denials, renewals, and revocations on a postcard that anyone can see. They had argued that it didn't constitute a public disclosure to send such through the U.S. mail because it wasn't public. There weren't a number of individuals who saw it. I argued that that would eviscerate the entire purpose of Section 6111I. In the decision on Friday, the Commonwealth Court acknowledged that and said that an issuing authority or any other person may not disclose confidential license to carry firearms applicant information, including the individual's name or identity, to anyone but law enforcement in the official scope and capacity of their job or the applicant him or herself. So that was a monumental victory for those of us with licenses to carry. Now you may wonder why I'm addressing Thank you. You may wonder what these cases have in common, and the reason I bring them up before you today is simple. House Bill 230. Representative Sue Helm is here with us. Constitutional carry. Both of these cases and the issues derived therefrom would generally be immaterial with constitutional carry, because with House Bill 230 enacted, an individual would no longer require a license to carry to conceal carry a firearm here in the Commonwealth. Furthermore, those individuals who want to ensure reciprocity when they're in other states will have the ability to obtain a license to carry for reciprocity purposes, where we will do away with the nebulous, vague, and in my opinion, unconstitutional character and reputation clause and start giving back rights to those individuals in Philadelphia who are consistently denied licenses to carry because Philadelphia doesn't believe anyone has the proper character and reputation. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming out, and please, as you're going around to the different General Assembly members' offices today, please ask them to support House Bill 230. It's what we need to do here in the Commonwealth. Thank you again, Representative Metcalf.
Thank you, Joshua. Joshua Prince, outstanding attorney that's fighting for us in the courts. We appreciate your work, sir. Our next member to introduce that'll say a few words is Representative Ryan Warner. Today we're also joined by Representative Cheryl Delosier, Representative Ted Nesbitt, Representative Tom Sankey, and Representative David Parker. Ryan?
Thank you, Chairman Metcalf. Good morning. I'm Representative Ryan Warner from the 52nd District in Fayette and Westmoreland counties. Thank you all for allowing me to be here with you today as we take a stand for our Second Amendment rights. As I prepared for today, I was reminded of the words of our fourth U.S. President, James Madison, who wrote in our Constitution words that we are all very familiar with. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. He further remarked, "The Constitution preserves the advantage of being armed which Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation where the governments are afraid to trust the people with arms. The Constitution of our great Commonwealth took it one step further, establishing that the right of citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the states shall not be questioned. Yet here we are, questioned, and having to stand on the steps of our state capitol, defending the undeniable, undebatable, constitutional right granted to us as Americans. Hateful and determined people will always find a way to terrorize society, regardless of the laws that we put into place. But by chipping away at our rights, restrictive gun control laws only help those hateful, hell-bent criminals get away with it. It's a fact. Gun crime is the highest in areas with the greatest gun control. We can't stop illegal drugs from coming into this country. We can't even stop illegal people from coming into this country. But those hell-bent on gun control believe we can keep illegal guns out of the hands of criminals. Well, this may come as a surprise to the liberals in Washington, D.C., but criminals don't follow the law. I'm tired of politicians in this country putting the views of a few loud dissenters above the constitutional rights of law-abiding American citizens. The problems we have as a nation have nothing to do with guns. Heck, in the 1940s, you could buy a Thompson submachine gun in any local hardware store without any identification. They didn't have the problems that we have today. The problems we face as a nation have everything to do with deteriorating morals. That's right. You know, we shouldn't be surprised to see violence on the rise. We've caused it. As a country, we've done everything we can to take God out of our culture, yet we seem surprised at the consequences. Our founding fathers believed that the right to bear arms was not just a constitutional right, but a God-given right. It's time to get back to that belief, and time to let God back into our capitals, hearts, and homes. If you want to stop gun violence, stop allowing our youth to grow up in a nation where they think it's okay to disrespect authority. Stop teaching our youth that no matter what they do, it's never their fault. There's always someone or something else to blame. For the love of God, start teaching ethics and personal responsibility. Instead of chipping away at our constitutional right to bear arms, we should be doing all that we can to keep guns in the hands of good American-loving, law-abiding citizens. Citizens who will use those guns to bravely defend our country, our freedoms, our families, and our communities. I'll conclude with a quote that I'm often reminded of, stated by the President of the United States, directed at the great people of this Commonwealth. They cling to their guns and religion. Well, you meant that as an insult, Mr. President. But I will own that comment with pride. Because those of us that cling to our guns and religion are clinging to the First and Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America as our founding fathers intended. Thank you all, and God bless the United States of America.
Representative Ryan Warner is one of our new freshman Republicans. He was a great addition, wasn't he? Well, he mentioned about shall not be questioned, that our right, the citizens' right to bear arms in defense of themselves in the state shall not be questioned, is what Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution says. And there are people questioning, as he mentioned. We had the flyer that many of you probably have seen, and we listed a couple of bills where they're questioning that right. One is House Bill 503, where they want you to have to register all of your firearms with the Pennsylvania State Police. And the other is House Bill, 503 also includes where they want you to have to pay a $10 annual fee for each firearm you own every year you own it. And then they have another Senate Bill, 1029. We can't leave the Senate out also. We've got our senators who are here fighting the good fight for us over on the Senate side. They have a Senate Bill 1029, which would require you to get an eligibility license before purchasing a handgun. You already go through a background check. Isn't enough already? I think for more and more restrictions, more and more questioning of your right. And we have our Speaker of the House here with us today that I know stands strong with us to stop those questions and ensure that your rights protected. Speaker Mike Turzai is going to say a couple words.
Chairman Metcalf, thank you for organizing this with all of your supporters and with our colleagues. Just an outstanding leader with respect to the protection of the Second Amendment right. Thank you very, very much. My next important point is, oh my goodness, never let me have to follow that young man again. He's so good. Ryan, outstanding remarks, and thank you so much for your support of the Second Amendment. What I also love about this important rally, not in addition to the importance of protecting Second Amendment rights, but how it brings people from, so many different backgrounds together. And as you can see from this great audience of legislators behind us working with you, the people in Pennsylvania, this is a bipartisan crowd, Republican and Democrat. I see my good friend Harry Reedshaw over there as one of the leaders on the Democratic side of the aisle. And amongst our Republican supporters, how about Donna Oberlander, Karen Bobeck, Kristen Phillips-Hill, Cheryl Delosier? Men and women understand the importance of being able to carry a weapon and to protect themselves. The most important thing that comes to my mind is in the founding of this great nation. In the founding of this great nation, when we did the United States Constitution in 1787 in our great city of Philadelphia, when we did that, the founders, because they were representing what the thoughts of the people in the United States, in this new country the United States wanted, and they said, there's got to be a Bill of Rights. We're not having people trample on our rights like we just had to fight a war of independence for with Great Britain. We want to know that our rights are protected. And they insisted on the Second Amendment. They insisted upon the Second Amendment as part of that Bill of Rights, and that Constitution wasn't going to take effect until the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which were done in 1789. Think about how far back that goes, representing what the people understood to be, as Ryan said, a God-given right, the ability to protect with the firearm your home, your family, and your property. That's so crucial. And the Second Amendment in 2008, the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, finally articulated it, although all of you knew it sometime before that. And that Second Amendment right is for the individual. It is not tied to the militia. Militias are great. You have to have them, in terms of fighting off tyranny like the colonists had to do. And that's why we have National Guards. That's why we have a military. But the right to bear arms is a right to each and every American citizen. And thank you so much for having this great rally. Daryl, thank you so much.
Thank you, Speaker Mike Terza. I appreciate you sharing a few words today. Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be one of our Republican leaders, our Secretary, Representative Donna Oberlander.
Thank you, Daryl. Well, good morning. You can feel the passion from this side, and I can feel the energy and the passion from that side, and you have heard from a lot of excited and passionate people here in the legislature. I am Dawn Oberlander, and I do represent the 63rd District, which includes all of Clarion County, parts of Armstrong, and parts of Forest. And I have to give a shout out to my Clarion County, Pennsylvania gun owners and my oath keepers. Thanks for being here. And you heard from my colleague, Jeff Pyle, that Armstrong, part of where I represent, is number 4 in its per capita gun ownership. Yay. Now, given that fact, if you believe what the opposition says, that guns create crime, you would think that our rates would be pretty high in Armstrong County, wouldn't you? However, we are 88.4% less than the national average in overall crime. And we are 96% lower than the national average in violent crime. Coincidence? I think not. You've already heard from our passionate freshman, Ryan Warner, what the Second Amendment says in the U.S. Constitution and what it says in Article 1, Section 21 of the Commonwealth Constitution. And I don't hear anything that's ambiguous or difficult to understand in those. Do you? No. However, today, more than ever before, we are at risk of losing that right. So I thank you so much for coming out today. Thank you for your vigilance. I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, Representative Bartolotta. Is our next speaker. Senator Bartolotta will be our next speaker. Thank you, Representative Donna Oberlander. I said that backwards. I was hoping nobody would notice. Now, thank you, Donna, for your words of encouragement on the Second Amendment. And our next speaker, Senator Bartolotta.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Good morning. Wow. I love to see so many people here. This is outstanding. And to hear all of these words echoing in this incredible building, your house, is even more of a thrill. And I want to thank our Beaver County folks. I hear we had 3 busloads from Beaver County. So together with Elder Vogel, let's thank our Beaver County folks. Thanks for making that trip. I am Senator Camera Bartolotta from the 46th District. That's Greene County, a bit of most of Washington County, parts of Beaver County. I'm a daughter of the American Revolution, so almost every single generation since the founding of this great country has served her in one way or another, and I am absolutely honored to be here to speak to you about this incredible right that we have and must defend. No, make no mistake, these rights are under attack. Just last week, anti-gun groups rallied right here in the Capitol Rotunda to push for universal background checks and other measures that they claim will reduce gun violence. Yep. One of these speakers actually referred to these ideas as common sense. Understand that I would never make light of the efforts of crime victims and advocates who have a sincere interest in preventing violent crimes. But if they think that universal background checks are the way to accomplish that goal, then it's clear that we have a very different definition of common sense. To me, common sense means that we hold criminals accountable for their actions instead of punishing law-abiding citizens. Common sense dictates that we improve our identification and treatment of mental illness, expand economic opportunities in areas in which crime runs rampant, and ensure our law enforcement community and the courts have the resources they need to enforce the law and keep criminals behind bars. And common sense demands that lawmakers uphold the universal rights guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Instead of making honest, law-abiding gun owners jump through even more hoops, we should be focusing our efforts on making the current process more efficient and effective. We shouldn't allow state government to be a willing accomplice to those who would deny us that right. When anti-gun groups lobbied here last week, they left us a warning. They said they're not going away. So today, I hope all law-abiding gun owners will join me in sending our own message. With one voice, we need to let them know that we will fight to protect our God-given rights. We will continue to ensure criminals who illegally possess and use firearms are punished to the fullest extent of the law. We will be here advocating strongly for the Second Amendment right, and we aren't going away.
Thank you, Senator Bartolotta. We appreciate you joining us today and speaking once again. Before our next speaker, I'd like to also mention that one of our Republican leaders, our policy chair, Representative Kerry Benninghoff, is here with us, and also Representative Dave Millard is with us today. Our next speaker has been with us almost every rally we've had since the beginning, I believe. Mr. Larry Pratt, and he's the Executive Director from Gun Owners of America, and we appreciate Larry's work that he does nationally and appreciate him being here with us today to share a few words. Thank you, sir.
Representative Metcalf, I want to thank you for your leadership over the years, because it's clear that because of your efforts and all of you here that are working with him, Pennsylvania is an even better place than it has been in the past. Thank you for what you've been doing. Please keep it up. When we deal with the anti-gun crowd, we're dealing with, newsflash, hypocrites. Before I even came to Washington to work with Gun Owners of America to lobby the Congress, the mayor of Chicago, Jane Byrne, went before the city council and made the statement in arguing for what became their infamous gun ban, gun control bill law, that nobody needs a gun. She was ringed by men in blue as she made the statement. That was one of my introductions to the hypocrisy of gun control. Representative Schumer, now Senator Schumer from New York, same kind of cat. This is a guy that argues against the right to keep and bear arms while saying he supports the Second Amendment and travels with bodyguards, usually from the New York State Police. Hillary Clinton has said that we have too many guns. We should follow the Australian example, where they piled up their guns and crushed them all. Well, I would invite Mrs. Clinton and many others like her, lead by example. Toss your guns in that pile. Constitutional carry is before this legislature, and it's been before a number of other legislatures. We now have 12 states that say you don't need a pretty please from the government to be able to carry a gun for your own protection. Just do it. Put it in your pocket or your pocketbook, you're good to go. Just don't try to break any laws when you're doing that. That's all there is to it. That's awfully hard to comprehend, I guess, for some of our talking heads. But anyway, 12 states now agree with that. Missouri is on the verge of becoming the 13th state. I would love to see Pennsylvania beat them out, and that's actually possible with your schedule. Crime doesn't go up when these kinds of laws are on the books. Alaska has had constitutional carry for 10 years. Violent crime has gone down. Couldn't have gone down very much to start with, but it went down in Alaska after this kind of legislation was passed. We don't want lists of gun owners being maintained by any government entity.
Say it again, brother.
That's why constitutional carry is absolutely important to protect our liberty. When government has their hands on the names, they know where to go when they want to start playing rough. We cannot let government have the name of a gun buyer, of a gun owner, of a gun carrier. That's absolutely irreducible. Senators Cornyn and Representative Stutzman have been leading the way in the United States Congress to make it so that if you become the 13th state for constitutional carry, you just take your driver's license from Pennsylvania and you're good to go, even in New York City, carrying a concealed firearm. Can you imagine? Anytime there would be a convention in New York City, it would be much safer than any other time of the year.
Thank you, Larry. Mr. Larry Pratt, the Executive Director from Gun Owners of America. Thank you very much, sir. I believe I also saw Representative Chris Dush here in the audience that's joining us today. Our next speaker will be one of my colleagues that's been working on one of the issues that we both had close to our hearts to stop local governments from passing their own gun control laws, Representative Mark Keller.
Thank you very much, Representative Metcalf. You know, when we stand here and see the outpouring of supporters, it makes it so much easier for us as legislators to pass those good pieces of legislation. When we have your support, that's what it means. When I look back at things, the numbers don't lie. More and more Pennsylvanians are purchasing more and more firearms. It's there. The numbers state that. And guess what? The crime rate's even going down. Now, isn't that something? You know, we've heard a lot of speakers earlier speak about the Second Amendment, you know, under Article 1, Section 21. I don't need to repeat it to you folks. You know what that says, and it should not be denied of any of us. As Representative Metcalf discussed, I was the one that wrote the legislation about preemption last session that actually passed and was signed by the governor. Now you will have those naysayers that come to you and say, well, the courts threw it out. It was unconstitutional. Excuse me, the courts didn't throw that out because it was unconstitutional. They threw it out because it was a single subject matter that they were discussing. Not that the preemption part of it was unconstitutional. So what we're doing, as you had heard Joshua speak earlier about the courts, we are waiting till the last court decision on the preemption itself, and then we have it ready, we have the co-sponsors, we will be introducing the preemption bill again. I stand here in support of other legislators that work very diligently to support our right. And we are always together on those issues. But I want to leave you with something that our forefathers said. And that was this. And this came from Thomas Jefferson. The beauty of the Second Amendment is that it will not be needed until they try to take it from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Mark Keller. Nice close. Good quote. Our next member that you'll hear from is State Representative Matt Gobler.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much. I want to share with you a few words that I know we've heard them, but we can't hear them enough. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The wise and noble men who wrote those words knew very well what a well-regulated militia entailed. It meant patriotic citizens willing to come together and defend their families, their properties, and their communities. And I am honored and pleased to be standing in front of you today. You are our militia for freedom and liberty. My name is State Representative Matt Gobler. I represent the 75th District in Elk and Clearfield counties. And today I'd like to speak with you about freedom and liberty in the marketplace. I'd like to share with you one of the complaints that I hear from citizens on a regular basis. That is the so-called Pennsylvania Instant Check System, or PICS, that is anything but instant. I frequently receive calls from constituents and local merchants who are infuriated by the lack of reliability with PICS. Often, PICS goes down with little or no warning, leaving citizens across the state unable to conduct legal transactions. More concerning is when we find the system down for scheduled maintenance, often on some of the busiest days of the year, such as during major gun shows, or right before high-use times of year, such as certain hunting seasons. In response to these calls, I drafted legislation to provide for a workaround during outages. My idea was to allow people with a concealed carry permit to show their permit in lieu of an instant check in order to allow the transaction to proceed. This would prove that they passed a background check and allow commerce to continue. This bill is currently introduced as House Bill 505. However, there is another plan that I like even better, and that's what I actually want to talk to you about today. House Bill 921, whose prime sponsor you heard from, our Speaker of the House, Mike Turzai, was actually originally introduced by former Representative Tim Krieger, who now serves us with distinction on the Westmoreland County Court of Common Pleas. But this bill, House Bill 921, would eliminate the Pennsylvania Instant Check System altogether. Doesn't that sound like a better idea? This is a common sense solution because PICS, what it really is, it's a middleman. It acts as the middleman between the person conducting the background check and the national system called NICS. You see, having the state-based system doesn't relieve us from using the national system, it just happens on top of it. Now, background checks that are run through the national system are provided free of charge, customer satisfaction and reliability is high, and very few complaints are ever made about their user-friendliness or reliability of NICS. NICS has recently been upgraded to allow state data to be loaded into it to allow it to check for state prohibiting offenses. Our state system, on the other hand, is expensive, it's unreliable, and it's slow. General fund monies often must be appropriated to subsidize this system on top of the user fees charged with each transaction. Let's stop getting in the way of legal transactions in our state. Let's simplify our system. Let's eliminate the obstructionist middleman that we call PICS. In your travels around the halls of this building today, please spread the word that now is the time to pass House Bill 921 and stand up for truly instant checks that allow citizens to purchase firearms without unwarranted bureaucratic obstruction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Matt Gobler. Our next member to speak on a piece of legislation that's already been mentioned that he'll tell you more about is Representative Rick Saccone.
Woo! Good morning, patriots and freedom lovers! God, I'm energized there listening to all these people talk about our lovely Second Amendment. I'm so excited to see people like you here standing up for their constitutional rights. You have a right to keep and bear arms, and I'm proud to stand with you today to affirm that right. You all know here in Pennsylvania, we're an open carry state. I can carry my gun almost anywhere on my hip for everybody to see. There's no reason that we should have to ask the government's permission for me to put my coat over top of it. Are you with me? My bill, constitutional carry, it reaffirms that right. We're a free people, and free men do not ask permission to bear arms. We don't need any permits. The Second Amendment is my universal gun permit. Listen to me. Those anti-American liberals, they love to hide behind children as an excuse to disarm law-abiding citizens. But remember, those abortion scalpels have killed far more children than guns ever will. Let's ban them. In the end, with your help, we'll force those gun grabbers to retreat and fight them all the way back to Washington or back from under whatever rock they crawled out from under. Thank you, my friends, for not compromising your Second Amendment rights. And thank you for traveling so far, many of you, to come here and reaffirm those rights. As you spread out in this building today, and you go see those legislators, remember to talk about those bills that we've talked about here today. Spread out through this building boldly. Let them feel the heat before they see the flash. Remind them respectfully our Second Amendment rights and the bills that we have that promote them, and ask them for their support and ask them to sign on to those bills. We have many legislators in this building who say they're Second Amendment, but they haven't signed on to many of these bills. Remind them that we want to see their names on that. God bless you, and thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you, Representative Rick Saccone, and we always appreciate Rick's passion. Thank you, Rick. You know, Jefferson, when he was working on the Kentucky Resolution in 1798, he's quoted as having written, "In questions of power, let no more be heard of confidence in man, but bind him down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution." Amen. They meant for the Constitution to be chains on our government, didn't they? Well, our government is trying to break those chains. Many that are serving in this General Assembly are attempting to break those chains. Your presence here today is going to help us to make sure that we're checking on those chains and reaffirming that the chains of the Constitution are meant to keep government from doing what they shouldn't be doing, becoming our master instead of our servant. In 1999, during debate, I asked one of the senior members of the Democratic caucus if he'd actually read the Second Amendment, or Article 1, Section 21, on the House floor for everyone to hear his answer, and he said no. He'd not read Article 1, Section 21, or the Second Amendment. Now, we have a group of bipartisan legislators here today, Democrat and Republican, and we stand together to defend those sections of the Constitution, and we will continue to fight on your behalf and protect the Constitution. But there are members here who, like he admitted, did not even read the documents that he'd sworn an oath to uphold and defend. Now, if you're going to defend it, don't you have to have read it? Yes. Well, as a veteran, as a legislator, I've taken the oath to defend our Constitution many times. And last year, we started by administering the citizen's oath here at the rally. Last year, we had a judge, Judge Cheryl Allen, that came in and did that for us, and thought it went so well that we thought that we would react that today for anyone that's here new today, or for somebody that wants to take the citizen's oath again. If you've not taken an oath to defend the Constitution, either in the military or in law enforcement or in office, then I invite you today, or I invite you if you already have, to join us today with Sheriff Custer from Fayette County, who's going to administer the citizen's oath. Sheriff?
Thank you, Representative Metcalf. And I want to thank Representative Warner. I am proud to be from Fayette County with such a fighter on a passionate subject. I'm with you all the way, Ryan. I could just feel the energy in this room that I still have chills. And this is great to see such a wonderful turnout for such an important issue. And with that, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And that I will bear allegiance to the same. And I will discharge the duties of my citizenship with fidelity. So help me God. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Custer. And to play off of the sheriff's name, I asked him if he was related to the famous Custer, and he plans on visiting the battlefield that he hasn't done yet. He said it was on his bucket list, but unlike that battlefield, this will not be our last stand, will it, Sheriff Custer? It'll be one of many stands. So today, many of you already are aware you're going to be on individual teams making rounds throughout the Capitol, visiting legislators and lobbying for some of the legislation that was mentioned here today, letting legislators know of your presence and that they need to do their job as servants of the people and protect our Constitution and our God-given rights. So before we send everybody off to do that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kim Stolfer. And Kim has a drawing for a door prize that is going to be brought up. We need to bring in the tickets up for that drawing. And maybe we can get Sheriff Custer to do the drawing. All right, Sheriff. Dig deep. Kim, do you want to announce the winner and announce the prize and say a couple words there?
Sure. First, I want to thank you all for being here. It's been a long 6 months, and God bless you all. To all the veterans out there, I want you to raise your hands. I'm a Marine, Semper Fidelis. God bless you all. We never renounced our oath, did we? You've heard great inspirational words today. But the right to bear arms is not predicated on the misdeeds of anyone. They're your rights. This House is ours, supposed to enshrine those rights. When you go around today, support the legislation, House Bill 921, House Bill 230. Let's get some business done here and start protecting rights, because right while this rally is on, somebody has had their rights destroyed. Or as Braverman Arms in Wilkinsburg yesterday was shut down by the PIC system because the state police misplaced their license check fees. Don't let this happen. Here's a gun dealer that can't sell. Representative Gabler was right. We need to do what's necessary and pass HB 921 and get rid of PICs. Now, 22 years ago, we were here and there were 8,000 of us. And at that time, Representative Teresa Forcier said, this time we came unarmed. We hope to God we never have to come armed, but that's the glory of the Constitution we have. Many of these fine legislators behind me work very hard to defend your rights. But don't forget that gun control has never stopped crime. Ask the National Academy of Sciences. We need to take and fight for good corrections in our laws. That's what's on those sheets your team leaders are going to have. Never forget that we have flaws in Pennsylvania law. The state police are registering all gun owners since 1931. If you don't think that you get pulled over and your gun doesn't show up in a registry database, a record of sale the state police have, you don't think you're going to go to jail, you haven't experienced it yet. My files are full of people who have had their rights destroyed. Every week, I get calls from people just like each one of you. I do this as a volunteer. For 30 years, I've been working on your behalf and on behalf of my family and my friends that didn't make it back from Vietnam. And I'll be goddamned if I'm going to let Ceasefire PA lie like they did last week and say we need more gun control. No more. Make them prove it. Make them prove it. They can't. So, I know we're getting short on time, so I wanted to, out of respect for all of you, Ace Sporting Goods from out in Canonsburg and Washington County, they've donated a Smith & Wesson 9mm shield. And we're going to call one lucky winner.
I already have it there.
Right here?
That's your ticket.
Okay, 143998. Take a look at your ticket now. 143998. Wherever you are, you're a winner of a Smith & Wesson shield. Thank you very much, Daryl. God bless you all. Let's walk the halls and get stuff done.
Well, thank you all for coming today as we break up the rally here. It's been mentioned several times. You're here today advocating on a constitutional affirmed right. It's affirmed in the Constitution. It's a God-given right. So as you walk those halls today, I would encourage you to seek God's guidance in your life and in the halls in advocating for preserving our rights, both here today and into our future, because to preserve our rights for the next generation, the only way they'll be preserved is with God's blessing. So get out there and do what you have to do today, and you all have a great day. Thanks for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next year, if not sooner. Take care.